As at 1912, the British luxury passenger liner, Royal Mail ship RMS Titanic, was the largest and most luxurious ship in the world, and also one of the most technologically advanced. 230 meters long, 25 stories high, and weighed 46 million kilograms. It was one of the most famous tragedies in modern history, killing about 1,500 passengers. We're going to use that story as a reference on how to rise above adversity and stay afloat. This story examines 9 elements that sank the Titanic and how to avoid them sinking you too. In March of 1909, construction on the Titanic began, and approximately a year later, 3,248 kilometers away, on the coast of Greenland, a giant iceberg broke free from the glacier and slowly began the journey that would make it the most famous, most talked about iceberg of all time. Where was it headed? The North Atlantic Ocean. Its mission? Death. Of the 15,000 to 40,000 icebergs carved each year by the Greenland glaciers, probably only about 1 to 4% of them ever make it all the way to the Atlantic. But this one did. Weighing 2 million tons, about the height of 5 Empire State Buildings, though part of it had been eroded along the way, it was still over 4 times the size of the Titanic when their paths crossed. 30 meters high, same height as the crow's nest. Approximately 1/8 of it above water, the greater part of its bulk hidden underwater. So also the forces of adversity, the mass of it is not so obvious to us at first. We see only the surface. The deadly bulk of it, the root of the problem, is hidden from sight. And our accusing fingers all pointed to the wicked iceberg. But was it all the iceberg's fault? When adversity comes, we are quick to blame the external factor. But the external factor can never bring us down if the internal is secure, as we will see later in this video. To ensure that it is kept afloat in case of a puncture, the Titanic had a unique state-of-the-art design, featuring a double bottom and 16 watertight bulkhead compartments, equipped with electric watertight doors that could be operated individually or simultaneously by a switch on the bridge. This would have worked well in ensuring that the ship remained unsinkable if the ship hadn't been punctured from the starboard side. You see, the Titanic had a very short distance and little response time to avoid hitting the iceberg head-on. And so though the engines were immediately thrown into reverse and the rudder turned head left, the Titanic sideswept the iceberg, damaging nearly 100 meters of the right side of the hull above and below the waterline. The massive side impact caused enough damage to allow water to flood into 6 of the 16 major watertight compartments. But hey, we got it all figured out. Our plan is legit. We know where adversity will strike from, and we've got it all covered. Really? That design advantage turned into one of the ship's biggest flaws. How often is it that in our short-sighted view of life, we make provision to protect the part of our lives that we feel is at the most risk of getting hit, only to discover to our dismay that we're getting hit from an angle we never anticipated, the very angle we did not ensure protection for. We don't see all things, only God does. That's why we shouldn't rely on our own abilities alone. Get mentors that can guide you, and ultimately, ask God for guidance. The 46,000-ton Titanic was made of steel and was held together with about 3 million rivets, which secured beams and plates. Each rivet was formed at a factory into a mushroom shape, and they were driven in using a hydraulic machine. However, the machine was too cumbersome for the curved area of the ball, and the rivets had to be hammered in by hand. A switch was thereafter made from steel rivets to wrought iron rivets because they were more malleable, as the steel rivets were too tough to hammer in manually. This potentially weakened a small area of the bow section. The first hard evidence about the faulty rivets emerged after the wreck was discovered in 1985 and was visited in 1986 by the explorer Robert D. Ballard, who saw the plates knocked apart at their riveted seams. Upon further investigation by David Livingstone, Dr. Ferry, and other scientists in recent years, it's been found that the quality of the rivets was compromised, and this caused them to pop when the impact with the iceberg occurred. Imagine how something as seemingly inconsequential as a rivet caused the massive ship to fail so fast. If the rivets had held, the ship would have held for a long while longer. Many times, it's the compromise, the things we overlook, the inconsequential things in our character, in our life, that causes the greatest damage. Work on your habits, your attitude, and make sure they can hold you when adversity strikes. The Titanic was designed to carry 48 lifeboats, but to prevent the cluttering of the decks, it carried only 20. There was supposed to be a lifeboat drill, but it was cancelled by the captain, and the ship kept on sailing, and so the crew were unrehearsed for an emergency. We tend to relax when things are going well, and there's no disaster in sight, so we don't prepare a lifeline. I want to assure you that the best time to prepare for challenges is when things look bright and rosy, because whether you want it or not, as sure as day, that moment always comes when you'll encounter an iceberg. So be prepared. Get insured against adversity. Back in 1912, ships had to rely on ice warnings from other ships and from their lookouts in the crow's nest. It was a moonless night, and the sea's surface was calm and shone like glass, making it hard to spot icebergs. Due to some unprecedented events also, the binoculars that were supposed to be used for sightings had remained locked away and the key taken off the ship, meaning that the Titanic was sailing blindly. Yet the captain kept the ship at full speed. Just a quick question. Are you seeing well? Is your eyesight okay? Because if it's not, you're definitely going down like the Titanic. Write your vision down and make it as clear as possible, because this is what will guide you to your desired destination. Moving at over 21 knots, equivalent to 700 yards a minute, 40 kilometers per hour, the captain believed that the crew could react in time if any icebergs were sighted. The lookouts ended up spotting the iceberg at less than a quarter of a mile off the bow or the front of the ship, making the crash into the iceberg unavoidable. In spite of the captain trying his best to slow down, the huge mass and momentum meant that the Titanic was still moving at a powerful speed when the impact with the iceberg occurred. This high-speed impact was the start of the disaster. When the Titanic collided with the iceberg, the hull steel and wrought iron rivets failed due to brittle fracture. Some of us go through life at full speed, wanting to make fast money, not pausing for a moment to consider our health or the welfare of those around us. And so when disaster comes, we crash into it full force. Take things easy. Take time to smell the roses. Don't be in a hurry to make it. If not, you're not going to be able to stay afloat when adversity comes. The wireless operators, Jack Phillips and Harold Bride, had the task of receiving incoming and sending outgoing messages. They actually earned their money from sending passengers messages. There had been numerous ice warnings received during the day, which they relayed to the captain. But late on that fateful night, Bride was resting, while Phillips was busy trying to finish sending off messages for the day within a 2-hour window, while the Titanic was within range of the Cape Race receiver at Newfoundland. He received a message from the Californian explaining that they had stopped for the night because of the ice. But when sending that message, their wireless operator had not waited for Philip to finish sending his messages and overrode them with a powerful signal. Philip then rudely responded and told the operator to stop sending ice warnings while he's busy with passenger messages. The Californians' response was to turn off their wireless equipment for the night, thereby blocking off all hope of help from the closest source of help in case of disaster. How often do you do this? Cutting off from that friend that cautions you about the wrong decisions you're taking. They seem to be disturbing you with their warnings, right? Or you feel they clutter your personal space too much, and so you tell them off. If this is your case, you won't last long when adversity strikes. Learn not to burn the bridge. You might just need it to make a crossing. Before the ship set sail, a small coal fire was discovered in one of her bunkers. Stokers hosed down the smoldering coal and shoveled it aside to reach the base of the blaze. After assessing the situation, the captain and chief engineer concluded that it was unlikely that it had caused any damage that could affect the hull structure, and the stokers were ordered to continue controlling the fire at sea. According to a theory put forth by a small number of Titanic experts, the fire became uncontrollable after the ship left Southampton, forcing the crew to attempt a full-speed crossing. Moving at such a fast pace, they were unable to avoid the fatal collision with the iceberg. Something else also happened when the Titanic left Southampton dock. As she got underway, she narrowly escaped a collision with a ship, the SS New York. There are always warning signs given to us when adversity is about to strike. Do you take them into consideration, or do you ignore them? If what you're doing is to ignore those signs, I assure you, you're going down like the Titanic. Edward Smith was the captain of the Titanic, well educated and skilled. However, he misjudged a lot of things on the voyage, and many of his decisions were made in error, showing that no matter how skilled we are still human and therefore prone to mistakes. The captain is everything on the ship, the final authority, the one everyone defers to. His word is likened to the word of God. Who is the captain of your ship? Who do you take your clues from? Whose words do you listen to? The word of God or the word of man? Till my next video, guys. Much love from my heart to yours. Bye.